I too would have been offended at the suggestion that I was prone to criminal wrongdoing. I served time with hundreds of white-collar offenders who felt that same way. Sharing my story, I simply hope to contribute to the education of others. As an enlightened society, I would love to believe that everyone in this room, that all Americans understand the importance of ethics and good citizenship. By reading any newspaper today, however, we read of others accused of criminal acts, whom others thought led sterling lives. I was once one of those guys. And in sharing my story, I want to encourage everyone to better epitomize the discipline and forthrightness required to resist temptations that could compromise your code. It can be very tough. It can be very hard to be ethical when others aren't. It takes courage to stand up and do the right thing when others aren't. Those pressures and struggles that you'll face in the business world, they'll always remain. And in hearing my story, I hope you'll be better prepared to deal with the inevitable struggles that we will all face. So why is this message relevant? Why is this message relevant to you? Well, we may watch in disbelief while others engage in crime. However, studies show that given the right set of circumstances, almost anyone can be convinced or swayed to participate in behavior they once judged others for. None of you, most of you, you're not going to set out to scheme or defraud. I didn't. Nobody's going to wake up and say, today's the day I'm going to rob and steal and steal in order to get ahead. Most of you won't do that. And most of the guys in prison don't do that either. Most of the guys in prison are a little bit like me, a little insecure, easily influenced, wanted to impress a superior, appease a client, didn't have the courage to stand up and say no. They didn't set out to scheme or defraud. But some do. Some of the men in prison have that narcissistic personality where they look to prey on others and exploit you and take advantage of you. They don't look at you as human beings, they look at you as objects, and they don't care if they ruin your family, your freedom, your life. They don't care. They are after one goal, and that is their own success, and they will use any and all in order to get there. Those are the people you need to watch out for. That's why this message is relevant. What's very important is, regardless who the leader is, regardless of who exploits or who goes along and rationalizes, I'm not doing anything that bad, you all suffer the same fate. You will be felons. You will go to prison. Prison terms are brutal. So regardless of who starts it, as the FBI agent told me when I told him everyone was doing it, he said, Justin, when push comes to shove, someone's going down. You're going down. So I encourage you to think about that when you're thinking about the people that you work with. What are your tendencies? We all have a proclivity to do something. I was a little weak. I was insecure. I didn't want to disappoint my client. And I was able to rationalize it by saying that I wasn't doing anything that bad. The truth is I had come to like the commissions. I liked the commissions. But I also didn't want to disappoint him. So what are your weaknesses? To be forewarned is to be forearmed. Those that know their weaknesses can never be taken advantage of, nor can you be exploited. Had I understood my weaknesses better, I wouldn't be standing in front of you today. The question is, will you listen? Will you listen? Philosophers from Plato till today have talked about the struggle of conveying lessons from human experience. Plato wrote about it in his famous book, The Republic, as he told his story, The Allegory of the Cave. And in that fable, Plato asks his audience to imagine a subterranean cave. A group of people had lived their entire lives in that cave. Not only were they confined to that cave, but Plato described their movements and perspectives as being restricted because they had lived their entire lives tethered to a pole behind them. As a consequence of their circumstance, the people in Plato's cave could not comprehend or fathom the fullness of life. By only being able to look straight ahead, they misperceived shadows for reality. Reflections from bouncing light rays brought illusions that those in Plato's cave felt certain were authentic. That life of limited perspective was the only life that Plato's cave dwellers knew until one of the inhabitants broke free. He escaped from the cave and emerged into all the splendor of the world. The first time he saw more than the reflection of light. Instead, he felt the power of life itself, with the sun beaming upon him, beaming and illuminating all around him. Suddenly, life was more than a collection of shadows he saw reflected on a wall. Instead, he felt the power of life itself. Upon his discovery, Plato's cave dweller returned to the cave that had previously been his only world. He was eager to share the lessons that he had learned about the world in order to help others exchange their illusions for reality. Instead of accepting such descriptions, however, Plato's cave dwellers rejected such ideas. People have a natural propensity, Plato's allegory instructs, to view the world